Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting Space Snacks episode. Today, my special guest is Shytoya Palmer. She goes by Toya. Hi, Toya. How's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's really great to have you on the show. And you are where are you? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a fifth year aerospace engineering student at Auburn University. It's like mid south of Alabama. But it's a very prestigious and awesome university to go to. So yeah, that's where I am. I graduate next May 2021, and I think that's
Now, are you from that area?
No, I'm actually from Alexander City. It's a town not too far from Auburn. It's very small, very unknown, thankfully. It's very southern. I graduated from Benjamin Russell High School. And yeah, it's a very just small town, but it's very near Auburn, so that's good.
And so, did you always want to be an aerospace engineer?
Oh my goodness, yes. My mom had me loving the stars and rockets growing up. Like I remember the first book she got me was something. I literally forgot the name of it that quickly. I'm sorry.
That's
But
okay. But your mom. So
yeah.
your mom was into space.
Well, she was into me reading.
Okay.
She's not a space kind of person, but she loved to see me read. Like it took me like maybe a day to go through one book, and she'd be like, "Oh my goodness, let me go buy you three more." Then I would finish those by the end of the day. Then she'd go buy more and more.
Oh, that is so fantastic. And the idea of, getting that love of books and space, because my father did that for me. Oh, he used to take me to the bookstore and tell me to buy out whatever book I wanted. And just, he had this library that was amazing, just always encouraging us to read. And so you liked space books.
Oh my goodness, I love space books. Anything that's on space, anything on space exploration, anything like astronomy or any kind of thing, I loved it. I loved it. And I knew that I wanted to do it. I wanted to be up there because, all I heard all my life was the sky's the limit. I'm like, no, it's not. There is further than the sky to go. So I definitely want to go see it.
Oh, I love that. So when you were thinking about growing up and space and exploration, did you want to be an astronaut? Do you want to be an astronaut?
Oh my gosh, I would love to be an astronaut. I'm
Oh,
definitely not very qualified right now for the astronaut application that NASA sent out, but I am planning to become one eventually. I want to be one of those women that inspire young girls of color and Black women, of course, to be like, hey, you can do this too. You can go up there too. You don't have to be an aerospace engineer. You could be a physicist, a geologist, whatever, anything.
that resonates so well with me. And I just want to put a shout out to Ron, who's also listening. And he says his mom did the same with him, Bookwise. And now he's addicted to Audible and Kindle. I love that. And so, oh, and Makaya's on. Hi, Makaya. the, that early fostering or love of space and having somebody encourage us to follow that dream, but then also growing up and wanting to be a role model. And very early on you have become a role model for others out there. How has your journey going to Auburn and aerospace engineering been so far for you?
Oh goodness, it's been something. I haven't been at Auburn the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 degrees before that at AUM and CAC. CAC is a community college in Alexander City. It stands for Central Alabama Community College.
That makes me happy because I'm a college professor. And I just think everybody should start off at the community college because it's so awesome.
Yes, it
So
saves so much money.
what are your 2 degrees from the community college?
Yeah, the community college definitely. I have one in associates in science and mathematics. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided to finish it with aerospace because that was something I was very passionate about. So I wanted a 4-year degree too.
Well, they didn't, obviously you didn't get a chance to take a geology class because I would have swigged you. And then, so now you're at Auburn, you're about to finish up. What is it that you want to do?
Like after graduation,
Yes.
I definitely want to work in the space industry, some kind of way. I'm still thinking about grad school or where I want to go. I don't. I told my husband, I said, if I talk about grad school right now, just just tell me to be quiet because I'm having I'm an undergrad. So I'm not sure.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure of grad school, but it may be a possibility. I do want to work for a few years, and then I'll give it some more thought.
Yeah, I did that. Undergrad, I wasn't sure. I went back home. I actually didn't know what I wanted to do, and I ended up going back home and working as a video editor for a couple of years. So not even using my degree. But then I went off to grad school, and it definitely elevated a lot of things for me. So I just want to put that little bug in your ear that going to grad school, what was nice about it is that it opened up a lot more access to things like grants and being able to get those internships and do some of the things that I didn't necessarily get a chance to do in undergrad. And so there is some power to being a student that it unlocks interesting opportunities. What is it that you love about aerospace engineering that you actually want to do in that industry or sector?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that. I've always wanted to be a propulsion engineer. Me and rocket propulsion are like two peas in a pod. I mean, it just goes together. I think about it and I get really excited. So I definitely was telling SpaceX when I had that interview that, I mean, all I want to do is be a propulsion engineer. I mean, I'm good at other things like coding and, CAD and whatever, but if I can work with propulsion, that's definitely something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh, I love that. And now, is SpaceX a company that you would like to work for?
Yeah, it's definitely there. It's definitely a possibility. NASA's definitely first, even though I called them out. But it's definitely there. NASA, SpaceX, Boeing, Lockheed, companies like that. I definitely love ULA too. Mr. Toya is definitely awesome too. I love him.
So have you gone to see, because you're near Florida, have you gone to see launches before?
I got invited to one with the the NASA social, but I was in class and I couldn't, and it was during final season that I got the invite and I couldn't. My professor said, "I'm sorry, we can't reschedule your final for you to go a rocket launch. I mean, it's exciting, but you can't. I'm sorry."
So you've never seen a rocket launch in person yet?
No, not yet. I think I will pass out if I do.
But you love propulsion, which is so fascinating. Because you've only seen it on television. Wow. Because I got the pleasure of seeing a space shuttle launch, and
that's so awesome.
It was incredible. And I was really fortunate because I had done an internship. Well, I had helped students on an internship at NASA. So I spent 2 months at Kennedy Space Center doing ecology field work. And I got to know the ecologists that worked at Cape Canaveral. And so the shuttle wasn't launching when I was there because it was right after Columbia had happened. And so the shuttle was grounded. But a couple of years later, they were launching for Hubble. And it was really interesting because they had 2 shuttles on the pad, and they had the one that was launching and then the rescue one in case something went wrong. But I contacted her and she graciously said, "Yeah, come do field work with me for 2 weeks. And I'll badge you in to Kennedy Space Center, like badge me in." I'm like, "Yeah." And I did field work. I got to catch alligators and go birding and all of these really amazing things. But then I got to see the shuttle launch and the sound and the visual and just, You know, did you watch the Launch America?
Yes, yes, I watch it all. I think I saw every single thing that happens.
Oh, me too. I loved it, and I felt I know I felt a lot of emotions with seeing the launch and then everything that's happening here in the United States and thinking about diversity and inclusion and access and I know that this is something that really resonates with you. Can you talk to me a little bit about the emotions you kind of feel when you're celebrating, Launch America, but also the things that are happening here in the United States?
Most definitely, I felt conflicted celebrating it, as well as the things that's going on with the police brutality. At one point in my head, I'm like, hey, this is amazing, this is legendary, this is awesome. And then another minute is, why are they still launching the same kind of people that they've been launching? And then another minute, and then another minute, it's people are dying and they're still dying and it's getting covered up. And my mind is like, which topic should I talk about first? So my mind is gonna, of course, go to definitely police brutality. And
Mhm.
it's still going on to this day, and it's exhausting. I had to take a few, hours and days off Twitter because, for one, it's mentally exhausting to see Black people continue to die when we're not doing anything but existing, and people hate us for it. So, and we have to convince the world that, hey, we deserve to exist, and it makes no sense because we're just people. I mean, it's not like we chose to be Black, but I wouldn't change it if I could.
Right.
So, but at the same time, there's something legendary going on in the space industry that is awesome. But of course, there's men on the ISS,
Right.
just men, just white men. So, and I know they're not all NASA, so I can't really say, hey, NASA's to blame for all of it, but they're to blame for most of it. So that's why I call them out for
You
it.
know,
And
and yeah, and I applaud you for that because it's something that, again, it was noticeable. And when we talk about representation matters,
yeah,
it does.
yeah,
What we see and who we choose to represent us
yeah,
matters. And when I think about Black females astronauts, there's only been 6. And out of those 6, only 3 have made it to space. And so when I look at NASA's history of getting Black females into space, I am like, whew, it is not good. They're at
no,
50% right now.
no, not,
And so in being an aspiring, both of us being aspiring astronauts, um, how do you see, what do you think about the future? And what are your hopes?
oh goodness. I have always wanted to be an astronaut, and I knew that if I couldn't get into NASA, then I would find a way to go to space without their help. So, because I mean, people think of propulsion and space exploration and launching, they immediately think of NASA, but NASA's not the only one that launches. People can come up with companies just like Elon did, and sorry about that, but just like Elon did with SpaceX, he's launching too, but of course they're partnering with each other. But that's not what the point is. NASA is something that I hope will be run and hope, because I know I heard in my mentions on Twitter that they have a diversity inclusion program, and that they hope that it gets acknowledged. I'm like, it's good that it gets acknowledged, but is it going to get fixed? That's what the thing
Right.
about it is. I hope that it does get fixed, because acknowledging the problem doesn't mean that it's going to go away.
Mhm.
So, hiring people of all aspects. I'm not talking about just Black people, people of color, other people. I'm talking about LGBTQ people. I'm talking about all kinds of people that deserve to be looked at. You see a LGBTQ person plus person, and you say, hey, they don't deserve that opportunity aside from the white male that graduated like in 4 years with an aerospace engineering degree. Well, they deserve to be looked at as well. If they
Yeah.
graduated with the same degree, the same qualifications.
Yeah. Whew.
Mhm.
And so the idea that it's gonna get better, especially when you think about, I love how you brought up more people. There was more ways to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I can actually see, Palmer Aerospace or Toya Aerospace in the future where you're launching and you're the CEO, when you're talking about the Elon Musk of the world. Well, you can be that, and being able to think about having your own propulsion company down the road, and I'd ride on that.
That's something I've always wanted to do. I've been talking about that on Twitter as well as with my husband and our family. I'm like, that's something I've always wanted to do, especially with myself and other things. I want to launch a company just like that when NASA refuses to be diverse, then I can do it myself. I don't need you, you know?
I love that because it's so true. A lot of times we wait around for others to open the door for us versus just kicking the door open and starting it ourselves, and having the courage to do that. And I know that you have started you've got a big following on Twitter, but you also started your website. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was definitely made for one purpose and one purpose only, to inspire kids about, projects in STEM. But mostly I've been doing blogs because of I want my voice to be about everything, and I've been expanding it. So I'm not sure if I want to make it about STEM. Well, it's definitely about STEM, but I'm talking about like kid related. But mostly right now it's about blogs. But as the coronavirus ends, hopefully soon, I will be able to do more projects, because I was supposed to be going down to my hometown to be doing projects with those kids that I know and I'm kin to, and be able to inspire them. But now I can't go down there because I don't want to risk anything. So right now I'm just doing blogs. But I hope that you guys can, tune into it and check it out. It's really cool. I love it. I've talked about police brutality, what STEM means, why it's important, why diversity is important. I plan to post a blog today, so check that out too when it comes out.
Yeah, I love that because you're also a solar system ambassador for NASA.
Yeah.
Yes, I am too.
Are you, for real?
Yes.
It's been very kind of hard because I'm supposed to be, be going to the events, but everything's been kind of shut down. So, just been going to the webinars and everything else. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've been thinking about. And what would be nice is for us to get together and do just an online thing about being a NASA Solar System ambassador and presenting something. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, that's an idea.
And so let's talk a little bit about food and some of the things that you would like to eat in space when you go. See, notice I said when you go. So first of all, Moon, Mars, or the International Space Station, low Earth orbit, where do you want to go if you could go to one place? Where would it be?
Mars, most definitely. It is a planet that I wanted to be the first Black woman to step foot on. It is something that's definitely my favorite planet. I love Mars. It's very beautiful. Aside from Pluto, we're not going to get into that because I still believe it's a planet. But Mars is definitely my favorite. So, I definitely want to go. It's awesome. So if I could eat one food, it would be on Mars for the first time, it would definitely be sushi. Yes, I love sushi more than I love anything.
Do you have a favorite type of sushi that you like the best that you got to get?
Oh, yes. Tuna rolls and California rolls. Oh my God. And I drown it. I know you're supposed to just lightly put soy sauce on it, but I drown it because it's so good.
Now, have you learned how to make sushi yourself? Have you ever done that?
I have not. I need to try.
Absolutely. Funny enough, because I've only done it once. Well, I should say twice. I learned at Cornell University when I was they took us to Cornell to learn how to do sushi. Kind of funny, or to cook, because I was going into the high seas habitat for 4 months. And it was funded by NASA to investigate food strategies for long duration space flight. So I lived in a Mars simulation for 4 months, all about cooking. I didn't know if you knew that. And so, and that's when I did my Meals for Mars cookbook. Right here is based on, Yeah, it's based on living in this Mars simulation. And so, funny enough, when they were selecting the crew for that, they brought us to Cornell University. And you know who was with us? So we got down to the final 9 people, and they were going to choose 6 to live in the high seas habitat. And astronaut Yvonne Kegel was
Oh,
there, who was my roommate at Cornell for the days that we were there. She's amazing.
she's
And
so awesome.
so I'm still friends with her today, and she just is again one of the Black females who never made it to space,
Yeah.
but just so amazing, medical doctor doing all kinds of cool research and stuff like that. But we learned to make sushi, and I don't know if I can find this picture because I don't want to waste too much time looking for it, but we made sushi in the high seas habitat. There it is. So
Oh my
I learned
gosh, that's
how to make
awesome.
sushi. Yes, in space,
Delicious.
Mars, on Mars.
Yeah.
Now, and so I know that you really like fish sushi, but we were talking before about a dish that we both love, shrimp and grits.
Oh my goodness, yes, it's delicious. Yes, it's delicious.
Have you tried to make that?
Well, I try. And you know, me cooking is I have a very short amount of attention that goes places. So my mind kind of runs like code. Like if it doesn't stay on track, it forgets. So if my husband's not home, I turn on the thing and I just kind of, if I'm not standing there with it, I kind of forget about it. So I can't make anything. Now my grandmother and my mother definitely made it as I was growing up, so it was a delicacy here. But now that restaurants are making it too, and with my grandmother and my mother aren't around because they're in my hometown, I definitely go and get it there too.
Oh, nothing like you're going home and some of the meals, because my mom was an amazing cook,
Yes.
and just some of the things and her recipes. So do you like to cook?
I do love to cook. I don't want to say like, hey, she leaves things burning. I do cook sometimes. I've made shrimp and steak. That's definitely one of my favorite sides for steak. Because when I have steak, I really don't like sides very much unless it's something light like mashed potatoes or asparagus, green beans, definitely something, or boiled okra. Now, boiled okra, oh my goodness, it is the most delicious thing I have ever tasted in my life. Okra is my second favorite food.
And so you recently got married. Congratulations.
Yes, I did 3 months ago.
And now, do you cook together?
Yes, we do. We cook all the time. He does this thing. It's so adorable because we just moved and we did it our last kitchen was kind of bigger, but our new kitchen, which is right here, is like kind of like a hallway. So it's hard for us to dance because we just slow dance all over the place. So when he's cooking, he just slow dances with me, puts his hand on my cheek, and I cry almost every single time.
That is so beautiful that you're cooking and dancing, and it's so romantic. Is there a dish that he makes that is your favorite?
Chicken and rice. But I think that's the one I was telling you about. He's really good at it, but he makes it a totally different way because, he and I are two different, we're, different colors, and he makes it differently. And I had to teach him like, hey, I like seasonings.
So he likes it a little bland, is what you're saying.
And he just add a little, and then just put it in there. It's okay. It's not going to burn up, I promise. And he was like, oh my God, this is delicious. I'm like, you discovered seasonings because you're with a Black one.
Oh, I love that. And then one of the things that, I talk about is how seasonings are really important, especially with space exploration, because you can only bring so many varieties of food or grow so many varieties of food. But the way that you're going to change the taste and the palate is through the seasonings. And so how do you provide a wide enough a range of spices and herbs so that you can take those few dishes and change them up? And so just so interesting. I want to get to some of the comments that are in here. And so Janet, hi. Cam, there's a lot of people. And so I'm seeing if there's any questions. If you have a question, just drop it into the chat and we will get to it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the fact that you recently announced on Twitter that you're pregnant.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. Because I look like a little balloon. I call myself a little balloon. But God, I could just cry. But I cry all the time, so I'm not going to cry on camera. But yes,
That's so exciting. And in the thought of, you know, the love of space that you got or reading, and that and how that relationship with your mom opened up this world to you. Do you think about that now that you're going to be a mom?
I think about that. I'm going to do exactly what my mother did, and I'm going to teach my child to read and very early, and you're going to learn about planets and stars and everything else. You're going to have that same love. But no, I just want them to be introduced to it, whoever they are and however they are. But it's going to be very exciting, you know, teaching this little peanut everything. I can't grasp it in my head because it's so overwhelming, but I love it. It's an awesome experience outside of all the sicknesses and not being able to eat my favorite foods and crying and so.
You know, and that's a lot because not being able to eat your favorite foods, and you're already so stressed out because of everything that's happening in COVID. And so how have you been able to cope with all of that's going on?
Yeah, when I found out, me and my husband, we would go out for errands, but now I'm very cautious because, you know, people are protesting and they protested almost every night here in Auburn, which I'm so grateful for. I definitely don't want them to stop, and they're wearing masks, but some people aren't. And you know, that's making the spike of COVID go up, and that's why we're still here in quarantine. So I don't want to risk my body, and I definitely don't want to harm my child with everything that's going on. So I'm being more precautious. If I do go out, I wear a mask.
You know, and so how do you, because I can tell you're still, with everything going on, just so hopeful and inspired still about the future. I can see it and hear it in your voice. And so what gives you that strength? What are the things that inspire you or keep you inspired?
Definitely change, I would say, is one word, because there's always room for change. I've heard that growing up. I was raised as a preacher's kid, raised in a Pentecostal church, so all you hear is change. But I want things to change in a way that people evolve from where they are to where they can be, because it's no reason why you should be thinking the same hurtful, hateful kind of way and still be able to go on with your normal life and still be able to keep your job, be able to do this. You know, I get it, the cancel culture is kind of going on or whatever, and I appreciate that. But if nothing is changing, then we're just ruining people's lives. You know, nothing is changing. So if you don't get that, us as you know, people of color and Black people, everything else, then what is it? What's the purpose? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you wake up angry all the time, and that's all I see is anger. This country is full of anger at people who are just existing, you know, and it makes no sense. I mean, recently my husband is not recently, but he is a lover of NASCAR, and I heard about the news that was found in Bubba Wallace's car or whatever, who was the only African American driver. And that's just something that, you know, people I see in the comments, you know, racist people that say, hey, he planted it. I'm like, why would he do that? Why would he do that?
You know, it's one of those things where you touched on some things about change and how change it happens every single day. We can't stop it, but yet we're so averse to change.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because it is something that we can learn to embrace. And it
Yeah,
sounds like you grew up in a household and learned to embrace change in a positive way.
absolutely. Absolutely. We, from the big change that my church went through in 2002, was something that inspired all of those messages about change. And that's how I knew about it. Not staying the same, moving forward,
Mhm.
and that's the thing about, the space industry. I want us to move forward, not stay in the same way from the 1900s. It's
Right.
not the 1900s, it's 2020, and it's time for things to change. It's time for y'all to start hiring more diverse people. And if you don't, then that's why more companies are being made with more diverse people and with more successful stories. I want things to change. I want people to change, but it is a fantasy to and a hope, a false hope or whatever, to think that everything is going to change. But I want it to be more positive. I want this world to be at peace, and for that to happen, people have to change. That's it.
Yeah.
If it's police, if they're not going to defund the police, whatever, then hire people that are changed, people that are normal. This is abnormal for y'all to hate us so much. It's abnormal for you to be racist, you know?
Yeah, you touch on a lot of things there because I just even the psychological evaluations that I've had going through the NASA astronaut selection process, and and so and you look at the training that the police officers have, but even like let's get down to screening, okay?
Yeah, right,
How are you screening these people?
right,
Because
right.
with today's knowledge and stuff, there's got to be ways in which we can do a better job of not only selection because they're keeping the peace, but also how long it takes to train and onboard and all of the things that happen so that we get the best. Just like we do for astronauts, we're trying to get the best. But again, the selection process has
Yeah,
been about not being inclusive before, or this whole idea of how do we select people for space. And when they I love it how everybody's like space for everyone. I'm like, really, because it hasn't been for everyone. The history, there's no
yeah.
evidence that space is for everyone yet. Like,
So right now, if you ask a kid, like, would you believe that space is everyone if all you see is white pale men? Is it for everyone, or is it for men that are white and may or may not have engineering degrees? You know what I mean? Like old men who, like, I asked that on my viral tweet. I'm like, are these the only people that are qualified? Like, people are saying yes. I'm like, no, there's not.
no,
Stop
I
lying.
totally agree. And again, it goes back to the selection process and
Yeah.
exclusion versus inclusion. So, I mean, the history is really interesting because NASA, they made the conscious decision that they were going to use test pilots. Well, in that time, there was only white males, really. I mean, they had some African American males, but there was no women. You couldn't be a military jet test pilot back in those days. And you look at the Mercury 13 and what they went through and qualified. They were women pilots, but again, denied to fly. And in looking at the fact that Valentina Tereskova went up in 63, and it took the United States 20 years later to fly the first female when they had the Mercury 13 before Valentina went up, and they chose not to do it. So it's choices, right? We're talking about.
Can I interrupt and say hello to Micaiah and Naya? Naya is on here, so it's my
Oh,
friend.
hi.
Before we got on. Yeah.
Oh, some questions here for us to get to. And so let me take a look here. Oh, Micaiah is like, better to have prepared sushi or freeze-dried components to put together. Oh, definitely components to put together. And so this whole idea of cooking and making, and so the sushi picture that I showed you earlier was one that we actually made while in the habitat to celebrate. I think it was the mid-year point of our mission. Oh,
She
Micaiah is asking, what can people do today to better support Black women to space? Ooh, Toya,
That's a
you
really good.
want to weigh in on that?
Yeah. I believe creating a safe space for them where it's inviting. I've been to mostly PWIs because I grew up in a PWI, so it's just something that I was used to. To this day, I regret not going to an HBCU. I was offered a full scholarship to Tuskegee, and I was told not to take it. But yes, it is. That is another story. But to this day, I still regret doing that. But I'm attending a PWI now, and those places haven't always been inviting. I've had to prove myself to professors, to students. I'm like, I'm a student with you. I don't have to prove myself to you.
Yeah.
You have to prove yourself to me and to everybody else. And then we graduate, and then we prove ourselves to companies.
Yeah.
You know, that's who matters. But I believe that creating a open and inviting space where, hey, Black women have voices and those voices are heard, can help them be like, hey, I want to apply to this company because they're kind, they're friendly, they give me promotions in a certain amount of years, stuff like that. You know, they give me raises. But if you have companies like NASA that hide you away and hope that you be quiet about some stuff, then it's not going to be very inviting,
Hide you away and just teaching you to silence that voice, right? And in that whole stereotype of loud Black woman, opinionated, all of these things, and yeah, opinionated with good ideas, something to offer, and the it's so much there.
Oh my God! Did you see the tweet, the viral tweet, what that man told me? He's
no.
The one he said he worked for NASA, and he said that I should be quiet about if I want a career in NASA, because if I'm not quiet, then they won't hire me and it's going to hurt the higher ups. That's what he said. I'm like, in what universe do you think I care about the higher ups when I'm speaking about racism?
And that's the interesting thing, because that is the history. Be quiet. Don't use your voice. Don't speak up. And that is, and there's 25-year difference between us. And thinking about the way that I was brought up, my dad worked for NASA. He was a hidden figure. I was born on Guam because he worked for we were born on the tracking station for NASA from 66 to 70. And I, as a kid, could not understand when I would look at all the footage from NASA, why I couldn't find my dad or somebody that looked like my dad. I'm like, but my dad worked for NASA. It wasn't until after he had passed away a long time ago, and the movie Hidden Figures came out. And I was like, my dad was a hidden figure. I'm like, were there, I didn't even realize it.
Talking about them, like the hidden figure, like they were truly hidden. Like I didn't learn about them in high school, and I surely didn't hear about them in college. I learned about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and all the other white men that did things. Not all the things that we're starting to learn that George Washington was all these horrible people, but you didn't learn about the horrible things until later that they did. You think that they're just like generals in the army or whatever they did, but these people are awful. They were awful human beings.
Going back to what Micaiah was asking about supporting Black women to space, I think it's important, like you said, speaking out. And when I look at the fact that they have a 50% success rate when flying African-American females, Black females, I am like, why is that? Why was Jeanette Ebbs pulled and replaced? Come on, tell us. Because I really want to know. Because you're not doing a good job, NASA. What's going on there? And then when is she getting reassigned? Like, these are the questions that we want to know. I mean, there have been over 20 NASA classes, astronaut selection classes, and 3 of them have been where they selected Black females. And so on average, every 10 years. if you're a Black female, your chances of getting selected. So you think about when you and applying, and you know those statistics, and you know the history. It's one of those things where you're like, well, okay, so you're talking that in my, because they don't really take women over 40.
Yeah.
So I have this window, and in that 10-year or 15-year window when I'm qualified, that you're probably going to take an African American female once, and it's
Once.
probably,
And
and
we should
out
be
of all
satisfied
the
with that.
selections that you have, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And we should be satisfied with that one. For the
Oh, I
next 20
know. There
years.
was the one time they took 3 was when they had a class, I think, of 45. I think it was the largest class they'd ever selected in the 90s.
Mhm.
And that's where you got 3. And then you had, 1 and 1 and 1 after that. And
Yeah.
so just thinking about how, not just for Black females, but women of color, people of color, and this whole idea of access. But being able to put those statistics and numbers together, and being able to talk about them and say, hey, well, why is this? And ask these questions, and want to get the answers as to, well, you're going to put Jessica Watkins? Is she going to be the first female on the moon? She's a
Yeah.
geologist. She
Mhm.
makes sense,
Mhm.
And so these kinds of questions.
Yeah.
Let's see who else we have here. I know we're over. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I just love talking with you. Oh, so Naya says you need a wiki page.
Oh, she's so sweet. She's
And then
precious. I love her.
I don't have my glasses on, so it takes me a minute to read everybody. Sorry. I love to see transparency in the astronaut selection process. I mean, how did you select a handful from tens of thousands? That's a really good question. And they have a committee, but the problem is a lot of times that committee, they try to get some diversity. But I will tell you that when I went through the astronaut selection process, a lot of people don't know this, but in 2009, first I was a semifinalist. And then you wait to see whether or not you become a finalist. And NASA was going to pick 40 people. Well, NASA picked all 40 people. And then I and 6 other people got a phone call saying, we want you to come and be a finalist for the NASA astronaut program. And if you looked at the 7 of us that were chosen, me, there was me, the Black female, there was an older guy who was in his 50s, there was a teacher, there was a, Jewish medical doctor. And we're like, there was a Black military Air Force pilot. We're like, well, we're an interesting group, very diverse. The rumor is that NASA had their 40 and selected, put it up, and it got kicked back for lack of diversity. And so what does that tell you in 2009, And then, so we thought they selected 7 of us to come after they'd gotten their original 40. And so we thought for sure that, well, they chose us 7, and, we're diverse, and they paid all of this money for us to go through the medical and all of these things, that at least one of us would get selected. And not one of us. And I don't know if it was just to tease out their final selection to show that they had diversity, but those original people that they had already picked or wanted, well, we diversified, but here you go. These are the ones I don't know. But it's been one of those things where I was like, whoo, diversity. How do you select people when you get down to the top 100 or 50 and they're all great? And looking, and if you're going to just check a box and say, well, we just need a Black person who is in here, or if you're just looking at the poster and saying, well, all of our women of color are now retiring out, we need at least one to replace them, then that's the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
Because you can hire many people of color who are qualified from that, and not just one to fill that checkbox.
Right.
Sorry,
Absolutely.
that was a rant on my part.
No,
Sorry.
no, I really hate that even happened. I mean, I would love to see more diversity. I really hate that happened. That's something that's really surprising to even me. Well, not to me to that happened. But I mean, it's not surprising because NASA. So they're definitely very interesting company. So
Well, but again, I think that that goes back to looking at who's making the decisions, and
yeah.
when you and the whole idea of who's making the rules for the selection. And so, if you're already going from this criteria of exclusion and not inclusion, then you're not going to make diverse choices anyways, because you're looking at ways to eliminate people instead of looking at their unique strengths and things and what they bring
Mhm.
through that diversity. And so, and again, age, because a lot of times the people who are going to be making that selection are going to be the people who quote earned the spot or whatever, or they're on that selection committee. But I would be surprised if anybody is under 40 making that decision,
Mhm. Yeah.
or being a part of that decision, I would say. But
Mhm.
hopefully, it's going to be fun to see what the 2021 selection astronaut class looks like.
Yes.
I think it
Yes.
could be the first time that we have more females selected than males.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think it could be that we have the good diversity, and I think that NASA could actually select maybe a larger class because we're going to the moon and we're launching from the US again now, because
Yes.
again the size of the class has been restricted because it was for the ISS, and
Mhm.
now this is the Artemis generation, and so they know
Mhm.
that they're going to need a much larger group of people to make that successful. And so who knows, maybe they'll select 20 instead of the 9 or the 8 or the
Yeah.
7, or the low numbers that they've been selecting. They'll pick a big class.
It's very exciting. I can't wait to see. Hope it's all about change. It is. And hopefully they come up with something that's better. And it's really exciting.
It is really exciting. And what's nice is that, with that, you are poised. You are 26. And
Yes.
with the Artemis generation and Mars, the number of people we are going to need is just going to go up. So
Yeah.
ideally, it'll go back to the heyday of the 90s where they were taking astronaut classes again and again because we had the shuttle and we were going up all the time, that you could just between the next 10 years, lots of selection happening.
I hope to be on a rocket ship. That's something I would cry. I mean, I would cry. I would probably go to bed crying, wake up crying.
But not just a rocket ship, but a rocket ship with a propulsion that you helped design.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry. Ignore me. I'm going to start crying. It's the hormones. But definitely something that I've always wanted to do. Me and I have always joked of getting on a rocket and launching ourselves. So I can definitely see Naya and me and all my other friends who I've made in the aerospace program definitely going. Is that something that we've always dreamed of?
Oh, I love that. And I could absolutely see that happening. Let me see if there's any other questions before. Ethan is saying, so many of those people will have essentially the same qualifications. So something else must factor into the selection that were especially, yeah, again, I've heard that when you get down to the final people who all select they all pass the medical, NASA could really pick any of the finalists and they would be able to do the job. But then they look at who do they think would get along. So crew cohesion, your personality, things like that are the small deciding factors that come into play. But unfortunately, people tend to pick people who are most like them when it comes to those little more subjective things because it's a comfort thing. So when you're
Mhm.
talking about crew cohesion and who would you want to fly with? Well, you
Mhm.
usually want to pick the buddies that you've been living with and hanging out with. So you typically skew towards, and that's just a natural tendency, because if you're asking who do you want to fly with, typically it's the people who you hang out with. And if the
Yeah.
people you're hanging out with aren't diverse, then
Right.
those are the decisions that are being made. All right. And so going back, I know that we're running out of time here. We went well over the normal 30 minutes because when I have a guest on that I just enjoy talking to, I just can't, it's hard to let them go.
Yeah, definitely don't mind. I have enjoyed my time with you.
And so when you're thinking about your voice and how you've been able to use it, and when people tell you that it could potentially hurt your career, um, again, what are the things that you say to that, and where do you get the strength to take that on?
It's definitely disheartening to hear people say that, hey, this may or may not hurt your career. You need to be quiet. I have always been an outspoken person. That's never ever going to change with whatever company I work for, which if I could create a company with myself. But me, I love to speak out on issues that matter, besides from the people who don't. So if it does hurt my career, then that's kind of racist on their part for them to think that, hey, she needs to be quiet so she can be a good engineer or be picked in the astronaut process. That's racist to think. If she's herself, then she's allowed to have that space to be like, hey, I can say anything that's respectful and on her mind, and be like, hey, I can do this. I can be free. I can be open. But to have that mindset is scary, because for one, I could say, hey, NASA has a lack of diversity, and other people will be like, well, no, it doesn't. Shut up. Don't say anything. But I'm just speaking the truth. I'm not saying anything that's a lie. It's not. People have made, like, my friend Kayla on Twitter made a whole Excel, PowerPoint on that, and I appreciate that because and she works for NASA.
And it's so that was fantastic.
Yes.
The statistics and stuff that she was pointing out.
Yeah.
And do you find support now with your peers?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are you finding support for your voice with your peers? I mean, I love the fact that Naya's on here and Makaya's on here, and all of the people that I'm beginning to connect more with on Twitter that are 25 years younger than me, because you give me strength to speak out. But the community that you're creating, do you find that you've got this community that helps support you through this?
Most definitely, as my account has grown, definitely have more people saying, hey, we want to see you in space, we want to do this. Definitely Naya, Ashley, Precious, Makaya inspires me more than anybody, and Naya, of course, and Ash. You know what? So it's a long list of people that inspire me. I love them so much. I mean, I get random messages from people across the world that say I inspire them. I'm like, I'm just, that's sweet.
But that's what's great about it, is that your voice not only has empowered you, but it's empowering others and being recognized, and that is a sign of change.
Yeah.
And just looking bright with all of you amazing women and women of color coming up and just saying, this is the way it's going to be, people. We're all going to change.
Get with it, or just don't.
We'll get out of the way because we're coming through. And I feel like I could remake that iconic poster of Hidden Figures with the three women, but just replace that with you, Makaya, and Naya kind of just breaking through, like, and figures, because here we are. And just, I love it. As one of the older people, thank you for all that you are doing.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Thank you.
And then for all of you that are listening out there, we give away a recipe postcard for leaving a comment. And so one lucky person is going to get, it is beef tacos. And so I'll mail that postcard to you. I'll pick somebody tomorrow. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Toya, can you tell the audience how they can follow you?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as both Toya. I am on Facebook too, but that's kind of my personal one. But Twitter and Instagram definitely Toya.
Yes, and so definitely, if you're on Twitter, Instagram, follow Toya. A lot of good stuff that's happening, and think about diversifying who you are tuning into, anyways, because that's so important. Thank you again for coming on Space Snacks.
Thank you so much.
It's been a real pleasure. And those of you guys that have tuned in, thanks for staying with us. I know that this was a longer one, but so important. So much to talk about. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.